Greetings! I'm Teek, and this is the show where I go over things that were of interest to me in the last week. Fortunately, I have a great many interests, so there's probably something for you here too. A new era of Star Wars is on the horizon. This week, Lucasfilm announced Star Wars: The High Republic, a new setting in the Star Wars universe to be explored across various publishing lines. Set roughly 200 years before the events of The Phantom Menace, the High Republic era will highlight the Jedi Order in their prime and the Galactic Republic at relative peace, with the exception of the Outer Rim. With the Sith still in hiding, it seems that conflict will have to come from other sources. In this case, one of the primary antagonists will be the Nihil, a band of pillagers described as Space Vikings. The High Republic will kick off with Light of the Jedi, a Del Rey novel by Charles Soule, accompanied by a Marvel Comics series written by Kevin Scott. On the more kid-friendly side of things, Into the Dark will be a young adult novel by Claudia Gray, A Test of Courage will be a youth novel by Justina Ireland, and IDW will release The High Republic Adventures by Daniel Jose Older. While each story will be largely standalone, the writers are working together to make sure lore is consistent across all the titles. That's right, a series of Star Wars stories where people writing them actually know who is doing what and where it's all going. What a novel concept! No word yet on any live-action or animated features in the new era, but it may only be a matter of time. Meanwhile, it's a new era for Disney as well. This week it was announced that Disney CEO Bob Iger would immediately be stepping down after 15 years in the position. Iger will stay on as executive chairman, overseeing the company's creative endeavors through 2021, but the business side of things will be passed on to Bob Chapek, formerly the chairman of Disney Parks, Experiences, and Products. Chapek is now the 7th CEO in the company's history. And over in video games, get ready to head back into Raccoon City. Capcom announced this week that a demo is on the way for the Resident Evil 3 remake. No word yet on exactly when it'll be available, but considering the game has an early April release, it has to be coming pretty soon. If you can't wait for the demo, there's more than 10 minutes of carefully selected gameplay segments out in the wild, showcasing highlights of the areas Jill will explore and the enemies she'll come up against, including the new Gamma Hunters, which kind of look like the monsters from Tremors 2, and Drain demos, which are essentially facehuggers now. Of course, we got a better look at what Nemesis is all about too. It seems that he still likes to trip you up with his arm tentacle, and if you get too far ahead of him, he's capable of cutting you off with a mighty leap, so you better get really good with that dodge timing. Going into closer releases, this week in theaters is Onward. The latest from Pixar, Tom Holland and Chris Pratt voice two brothers on an epic quest in a world where the magical has become mundane. And for a more traditional sword and sorcery quest, Season 3 of Castlevania releases this week on Netflix. Dracula may be dead, but he's not forgotten. Richter Belmont and his friends apparently have some cleaning up to do when it comes to the Unholy Army. Heading into video games, releasing this week on Steam is Chrono Station, an interesting, if elaborate-looking tower defense game that has you building defenses around a space station. Hypergalactic Psychic Table Tennis 3000 is Pong with power-ups and RPG elements from the makers of Mass Effect. Or at least a guy who knows a couple guys that worked on Mass Effect. Looks fun. Also on the cute side, Amoeba Battle Microscopic RTS Action is a neat little RTS game, no pun intended, that has you multiplying and evolving into a single-cell army. Nocturne Prelude is a pixel art RPG with a nice-looking art style and rhythm-based combat. Weakless is a puzzle adventure game that looks like Pixar made a remake of See No Evil, Hear No Evil, and then turned that into a video game. Belonging is another interesting concept for a game. In this case, your goal is to kill time for 400 days, giving you a lot of time to explore whatever cavern you seem to be trapped in. Murder by Numbers, meanwhile, is a detective game about a TV detective accused of a real murder teaming up with a floating robot to solve a case. Don't know if it's worth playing, but it sounds like it's at least worth watching. Yes, Your Grace is a pixel art strategy game that seems to put you in the role of royalty trying to maintain order in your kingdom. And finally on Steam, Rain Island looks to be a short and sweet action shooter that consists entirely of a boss rush on one level. Over on the Epic Games Store, Inner Space is this week's free offering. Seems to be about flying around in a pastel world. And over on the Nintendo Switch, The Story Goes On is another Zelda-ish roguelite. This one looks like it's built around co-op play. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX remakes the GBA original RPG with glorious next-gen graphics. Save Coke is a neat-looking game that puts you in the crocs of a boorish mafia don trying to keep control of his city from the safety of his panic room. And finally, Swordbreaker is a choose-your-own-adventure style fantasy game that looks full of fun choices and probably a lot of heroic and/or horrific deaths. That leaves us with this week's awesome video. MatPat is at it again, giving the Sonic the Hedgehog movie way too much thought and dunking on the CIA in the process.
Central Intelligence Agency my foot, more like crappy information archive.
That's everything for this week, so how are you feeling about the High Republic? Let me know in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and maybe give me a like if you think I deserved it. I hope you enjoyed the video and have a great week.